Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Igor Zhovkva. He is the deputy head of the office of Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. He's also his chief diplomatic advisor. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I want to begin with this tragic incident at the Mariupol theater. It was bombed. There was fear that there would be massive casualties. Can you tell us the latest?
Well, the latest development is as follows. Well, since it was really heavily and severely bombarded, despite that they knew that there are only women and children in the building, because it was a clear sign written "children," you can see it from the sky. But still, they haven't had these massive bombardments, and unfortunately, they didn't stop the shellings around the area for a longer period of time. So the rescue team could not even at the beginning approach the building. For the time being, and you have to understand, the people were in the shelter and on the ground floor. Unfortunately, the building has been completely ruined, and some people who were in the shelter managed to get away. So for the time being, we have 130 people who survived, who managed to get away from the shelter. So currently, the rescue teams are still doing their job, but unfortunately, several hundreds of people may be still there and trapped.
So you fear there would be a lot of casualties still?
Yes, unfortunately, that might be the case.
Yes. I want to turn now to the talks between Russia and Ukraine. They've been ongoing. Progress was reported in the middle of this week. However, this Friday, the Kremlin accused Ukraine of dragging out those talks. What is the situation?
Well, it's a false narrative. So Ukraine is ready to talk and was ready since the beginning. We proposed the diplomatic solution of the Russian aggression right away when the war against Ukraine has started. So our delegation is and will be ready to negotiate and absolutely prepared to go on with the talks. Unfortunately, we hear different dynamics from the Russian side. Once again, every diplomatic job to be done, Ukrainian side is ready to be done. The same as Ukrainian side is ready to have the talks on the highest level. So my president was always expressing his ability and readiness to hold talks with President Putin. So playing with the time, it's Russian tactics rather than Ukrainian.
Right. Is such a conversation between President Putin and President Zelensky on the table right now? Do you think it is likely to happen in the near future?
And once again, we hope for this talk to go on, to start, because we are suggesting it to Russian side through different channels. When my president talks to foreign leaders, some of them or most of them suggestion their mediation, activities to get President Putin down the table, down the negotiate table. Unfortunately, for the time being, as we speak, we don't have the consent from the Russian side. We heard some, sayings from some Russian officials that still some job has to be done in the level of the delegations. Once again, the Ukrainian delegation is ready to work, but unfortunately with no result from the Russian side.
Right. Are you optimistic that there could be a ceasefire in the coming days, or do you think this is far from being the case, given the daily war we're witnessing right now?
Well, it's usual practice when you start serious diplomatic negotiations, you immediately had the ceasefire regime. Unfortunately, this was not the case since the beginning of the negotiations. No, we are having the fourth round already, and the ceasefire is not the case. But definitely, this is absolutely the desire of Ukrainian side to immediately start a ceasefire, to stop regular bombarding day by day, night by night, hour by hour, our civilian objects, our cities and small cities, big cities, villages and towns, for increasing the number of casualties. Yes, we demand the immediate ceasefire.
Right. But those talks continue. It means that there is some progress, I imagine, on a ceasefire, maybe on the future status of Ukraine. I mean, can you say that there is some progress, even though it's slow and obviously even though the war rages on?
Well, I would not speculate on the detailed provisions of any possible documents because, the diplomatic formula, nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. Yes, definitely we want to have a ceasefire. Definitely we want to have an immediate withdrawal of Russian troops from the Ukrainian territory. But unfortunately, these, starting points which any negotiations should start with are not yet the case.
Do you sense that maybe the war is entering its fourth week now, that there is a change in the attitude of the Russians at the negotiating table, that they might realize that the situation is not what they hoped it would be after those 3+ weeks of fighting?
Yes, it might be possible because they thought they would immediately have big victories, capture and encircle some big cities of Ukraine. They were hoping to encircle and capture the capital of Ukraine, the city of Kyiv. They were hoping to capture the city of Kharkiv in the east of Ukraine or Odessa in the south of Ukraine. Currently, we see this is absolutely not the case. Yes, they managed to encircle some smaller cities in south and east of Ukraine, but it's far away of their plans. And that's why, yes, it definitely makes an influence over their negotiation position. But once again, very important to stop the shellings immediately, because many more people are going to die the next day if the situation continues.
Is Ukraine ready to accept some kind of neutrality? Russia said that this was indeed something they'd be interested. We saw your president already admit, more or less, that a NATO immediate perspective was out of the question right now. Is there a possible compromise on this issue?
Yeah, my president just fixes the reality. NATO is not ready to accept Ukraine currently to its members, and that's what we have for the time being. As far as any possible status of Ukraine are concerned, they cannot be talked over, speculated without hard security guarantees for my country. We do not want the similar aggressive acts to repeat against Ukraine or any other European country in the future. So that's why talking about any possible status of Ukraine will be only together with the complex talks about possible system of hard security guarantees, not only for Ukraine, by the way, but for Europe as well. But definitely we think about my country, and we are starting to already, draft these possible guarantees for Ukraine. And this is very important.
The guarantees would be by countries, let's say the United States and powerful Western countries, maybe with nuclear weapons. You wouldn't want several countries to guarantee Ukraine's future integrity and security.
Well, we used to have several countries guaranteeing the security of Ukraine when we refused from the third largest nuclear potential. The so-called Budapest Memorandum turned out to be a piece of paper, though among the guarantors were Russia, US, UK. But when in 2014 Russia has started its aggression against Ukraine, and in 2022 when it started an open war against Ukraine, those guarantees, those Budapest Memorandum, were just thrown away. So yes, we do not want this to repeat the same kind of situation. Yes, as many more security guarantors for my country, hard security guarantors. Yes, the big states with the possessive of potential is better.
Right. Would you accept not to have any foreign military bases on your soil?
Again, don't want to speculate about this. We should view the situation in complex.
Obviously, a bone of contention is Crimea. As we speak, Russia is celebrating, quote unquote, the annexation of Crimea back in 2014. There's also the situation of the territories in Donetsk and Luhansk region. Is this supposed to be a separate set of discussions than the one you're having now, or do you think that this needs to be discussed and agreed upon right now?
Well, yeah, right. You are today, symbolic day for them. By the way, one of the plans was to end the war against Ukraine by this day, because they like symbols and symbolic dates. As we see, this is far away the case. No. We will not trade any inch of territory of Ukraine. So we consider any Ukrainian territory as of borders of 1991 as Ukrainian territories, be it Crimea, be it Donbass. But again, these issues would be discussed in the complex with the rest of the issues.
There could be autonomy, for instance.
Well, again, not to speculate now, but it should be Ukrainian territory.
Right. The last issue I want to touch upon is obviously the no-fly zone. This seems to be off the table because NATO has refused it. However, there is another alternative, the S-300 air defense system. Slovakia said it was ready to supply it to Ukraine. Russia threatened that if this was to happen, those would become targets. Are you optimistic that such missile defense systems are going to be supplied to Ukraine in the near future?
Well, we're disappointed really by the position of NATO as an institution and of NATO member states, and France is among them, for not providing the no-fly zone over Ukraine. I mean, that would help us to have our sky secured, because we're doing rather good on the ground, but as far as the sky is concerned, we still lack enough capabilities. So yes, a no-fly zone would be ideal solutions. If this is not the case, and that's what we hear from NATO members, that this is not the case, yes, there are some other possibilities to equip Ukraine with enough potential to defend its sky. One of the options you mentioned, it's not only anti-air defense system, but also anti-missile system, but also fire jets, which could help Ukraine to prevail in the sky. So yes, we are trying to use every opportunity to work with every state in the possession of this or that equipment, and to have the consent of the states, of the NATO member states. As answering your question, I don't think any of the states should be afraid of Russia or Russian threats or ultimatums. Ukraine is now waging a warfare not only for Ukraine, but for every European state. So you have to be with us.
Igor Zhovkva, I want to thank you very much for appearing on the France 24 interview, and thank you very much for watching it. Stay tuned for more news here.